Hello, everyone, and warm welcome to you wherever you are in the world. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. I'm joined today by my good friend and colleague, Mr. Andrew Lamb. Hello, Andrew. Good to see you.
Hey there, Luke. How are things?
Very good, thanks. So today we're going to have a chat about executive coaching. And, you know, these days companies are investing a lot of money to make their executives better leaders. And among the leadership development options, obviously, is executive coaching. Though the big question that's on everyone's mind is, are we getting our money's worth? Is there tangible return on investment or ROI when it comes to executive coaching? That's exactly what we're here to talk about today. Is to help us to get into the nitty gritty of it all. We're going to just discuss how and why and what the real return is to companies. So with that in mind, Andrew, what is the role of a leader?
Very simple. The role of a leader is to inspire others. And I'm going to take the words from Richard Branson. The leader should clearly set the vision, get the right people in the right seat, and get the heck out of the way. So that's the role of a leader. Set the vision, get the right people in the right seat, and get out of the way. Those are the three things that is what a leader's role is.
Fantastic. Couldn't agree more. So with that in mind, what are the metrics commonly used to gauge the effectiveness of executive coaching in today's business environment?
Obviously, OKRs and KPIs, 360-degree feedback, and what are people working on or going to work on this quarter, and employee levels. So looking at this, what are the KPIs and OKRs for the business? What are the numbers? What are they improving on? What are they driving towards the improvement? And then how is that impacting the overall business? That's how people generally manage executive coaching.
And when you said employee levels there, are you referring to then engagement levels?
Correct. So the engagements, looking at employee satisfaction scores. Are we getting more out of the team? What are they working on? How enthused are they? Are they inspired, et cetera, et cetera? Because again, remember, the role of the team is to look after the customer. So is the team looking after the customers and getting the results we need by the teams looking after the customers?
Okay. So you and I have both worked in C-suites and had big teams. What is the one thing most executives need to work on, in your opinion?
First of all, what is the purpose of the organization? Be very clear on what is the purpose of the organization. What are they driving towards? And then the second thing is putting the right people in the right seat on that bus. So what they should be working on is the organization. What's the purpose, right? Making that very, very clear. And then getting the right people in that seat to get the results that we need from the business. That's what most executives need to work on. And then the last thing executives need to work on is how to inspire people. How to inspire those people that you've put on the bus to get the results that you need.
Okay, so that's an easy thing to say, but what and how, what is the best way to inspire your team or your people?
Great question that's been asked for years, right? How do you inspire team members? Well, how do you inspire people? Is you actually have to know their purpose. You've got to understand what's driving them. And the quickest and easiest way to do that is actually to get them to take a YOS. So understanding the purpose, understanding why they do what they do, understanding what do they do and how do they do it. So understanding somebody's purpose, direction, and delivery is really, really important. If you understand that, you can inspire people by that. So let me give you an example. If you want somebody, we're going into a new environment, a new area, and you want to come up with some new things, some new solutions, some new products. You need challengers in the business. You want people that are doing things a better way, right? So if you bring in challengers or better way people into that organization, you can inspire them by saying, we want to challenge the status quo. We want to do things better, right? You're now speaking their language. Once you start speaking their language, communication is what you get back. Once you start talking their language, you can inspire them to go and take action. No point in putting somebody that's a master in an organization that is driving change, because guess what? They want to dig deep, deep, deep. Yes, there's a place for them on the team, but it's not driving change. Put the right people in the right seats on the right bus, know who they are, and drive them through their purpose.
And maybe we come back to that, because I think there's so many of those tools, and I know you and I are obviously passionate about the YOS discovery and that tool, but I mean, loads of executives will be looking at DISC, they'll be looking at strengths, Myers-Briggs, all of those. But firstly, let me go into this. To what extent can soft skills, such as leadership and emotional intelligence, be quantified to measure the ROI of executive coaching, if that's an area that we're saying it has a huge effect?
It does, right? So it's understanding. Understanding is the key. So quantifying people, yes, people are people, right? Let's be honest. We are all humans. We all have our strengths. We all have our weaknesses. Understanding what our strengths and our opportunities are is really, really important, because if you don't understand them, how can you work on them? Quantitative soft skill assessments, behavior assessments, peer reviews, leadership impact surveys, these are all things that you can do to understand. Once you understand, now you can start moving in the next step, which is, can I, or how do I improve, or how do I change what I need to change?
That sort of takes us to where we were. What tools or methodologies exist to quantify these seemingly intangible skills? And
hundreds of tools out there. I mean, there's EQ tests, there's the Myers-Briggs, there's a whole host of them, right? So there's behavioral analytical tools, there's simulations, there's psychometrics, there's scenario-based. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. But these are tools that are looking for those intangible skills. What it doesn't tell you is what motivates you, what drives you, what drives your purpose. That's why we really embrace the YOS, because it gets to your purpose. Then we layer on all the other tools that help you identify some of the other challenges, the other opportunities that we've got, whether that be in communication, whether that be in behavioral science, whether that be in analytics. We add them on top.
And that would be the role of the executive coach, to come and say, okay, what pairing or what collection of tools do we need in this environment to direct us and drive the results?
Absolutely, because there's no one size fits all, right? So individuals are individuals. So if you're managing an individual, if you're growing an individual, we've got to tailor it to the individual. Right? Yes, you could do courses where you've got the group, you've got group think, you've got group reviews. I've been part of those. But each one of those has got to be tailored to the individual, because we are human. And thankfully we are. Right? So yes, there's a whole host of scenarios and tools that we can utilize to understand the individuals, and then we can look at the opportunities and then start to improve.
Perfect. So moving on then, let's explore the heart of the matter. The quantification of personal and professional growth. We often hear about key performance indicators and how they're shaped by executive coaching. With so many variables at play in any business environment, how do we truly measure the impact of such coaching on ROI?
So obviously there is the OKRs and KPIs of a business.
Okay.
The 360 feedback, right? So getting that feedback. So there's benchmarks, right? And then I think the other one is the employee engagement levels, right? So again, we go back to, this is all about leadership. Leader is inspiring others. So from a leadership perspective, we can measure from OKRs and KPIs, 360 feedbacks on specific things that we're working on. And then I will go back into employee engagements. How are the team engaging and driving and improving the business? Those will be the metrics that I would look at.
So Is there a reliable methodology then to isolate the impact of executive coaching from other variables such as market conditions or team dynamics when calculating that, Andrew?
Data is data. Okay, so a lot of people show me the data that does this, right? So again, it depends on the cleanliness of the data, the unbiasedness of the data. So obviously, things that we can measure, time-bound analysis, right? Did we improve over a period of time? Data assessments. Is somebody improving in certain places that we can actually validate using data? And then there's the other methodology, which is not quantitative but qualitative, is feedback, right? Human feedback. So yes, I think there's time-bound analysis, there's data-driven analysis, but there's also the human feedback loops.
So then an organization's now brought Luke Dillon and Andrew Lamb to come and do some coaching. How do they typically control for these external factors in their analysis? So there's been a change in a dip in the market, for example, or the market's growing radically. How do they then look at it and say, this is our ROI directly as a result of an executive coach?
So obviously benchmarking, right? Benchmarking where we currently are and having those specific numbers in place.
Okay.
And then looking at where we're going towards, right? So let's say that the nominal growth is going to be 1.5x. Through coaching, did we get to 2x, 2.5, right? So understanding the market normalization of the numbers and then internal controls, right? So one of the challenges in project management is what's the ROI, right? What's the return on investment or what's the return on revenue? That's easy to calculate when you're only changing one thing. But if you're changing dozens of things, how do you manage that? How do you measure that? So benchmarking, setting the data, normalizing that data, and understanding what else is changing is very, very important.
Okay. So then what are the key performance indicators that are most responsive to executive coaching? And how do these KPIs then translate into financial gains or losses?
Number one, team engagement score.
Okay.
Number two, decision to speed. Number three, bench development, right? And number four, I would say percentage of delegation. Let me go into those. So team engagement score, decision-making speed, bench development, and delegation. So again, I go back to the team is responsible for managing the customer. So are we improving the customer experience? Are we engaging the customer better? Are we getting more share of wallet from customer? Decision-making speed. Are we making decisions quicker and faster and easier and getting better results? Right? It's not all about speed, but it's getting better results, right? So a decision that used to take us 6 months, we can now do in 3. A decision that used to take 3 months, we can now do in a week. So what's the decision-making speed and the end result of that? Bench development. Who are you building in your team? Again, the leader's job is to inspire. So how are you developing your bench so that you've actually got people behind you in all of the different parts of the organization? So the business is not dependent on one person. You're inspiring others to step up and grow. And then finally, as a leader, how much are you delegating your work to other people and it being done? So utilizing your bench and doing percentage of delegation, how much of that is increasing and getting better results? Those would be my KPIs.
I think one of the key things there that I've noticed, and I'm sure you have, is that decision-making speed that happens when a team is more collaborative as a result of coaching. There's confidence and some vulnerability, and people are just confident that they're being looked after, the leaders invested, and suddenly they can make decisions. And even if they're bad decisions, they'll get supported. So thinking of that, how do companies then align the KPIs with the specific objectives of executive coaching programs?
So obviously goal setting workshops, right? Sitting down, understanding what we need to get done, what are the outcomes that we need to do, and how are we going to get there? So as you said, collaborative engagement with the whole team, setting the goals so everybody's clear and aware, and inspiring people to get there. Feedback-driven adjustments. So how are we getting that feedback, real-time feedback as an executive? What's working, what's not working? Why is it not working? How are we improving, right? Being very focused on the thing that we're trying to change, right? One of the challenges with leaders is communication. Right? How do you improve your communication across the board? How are we making sure that the changes that we're making are really improving? And then making sure that within that plan, you've got that customized coaching plan to get you there, right? Having that objective outside view and making sure you're driving the appropriate changes to get you to those results. So again, goal setting workshops, feedback driven adjustments, and customized coaching plans is how I would align to those KPIs.
Thanks, Andrew. So when you now think of our programs and how you and I work with our corporate clients, are there certain KPIs then that have shown to be more indicative of successful executive coaching?
Yes, there'll be 4 areas. Number 1, retention rates. Number 2, succession planning. Number 3, innovation metrics. And number 4, team cohesion metrics. So let's talk about those 4 areas. Retention rates. What is the retention rate of the business, right? Especially around key employees. How many of those key employees are you keeping and growing? Succession plan. What is your succession plan on every level of the organization? So you got the right people in the right seat to take the next step, right? So you're constantly growing the organization, inspiring people, putting the right people in the right seat on the right bus. Innovation metrics. How are we innovating within the business? How are we asking the right questions and getting the right inputs from everybody, siphoning through the data to get us to the right place that we need to do to making decisions quicker, faster, better. And then the cohesion, how are the teams operating internally together, right? In multifaceted organizations, how are those organizations cohesive? How are we supporting and growing each other through the organizations? So those would be the 4 key areas I'd look at: retention rates, succession planning, innovation metrics, and team cohesion metrics.
Great. So before we wrap up, it's essential to address the myths surrounding the ROI of executive coaching. And the misconceptions that are out there can influence decisions, and it's crucial to separate fact from fiction here. You and I come across that all the time in the marketplace. So in your opinion, what are the most prevalent myths surrounding the return on investment of executive coaching, and how do these misconceptions affect companies' willingness to invest in these programs?
So a couple of areas. There's an immediate ROI. Some cases there is, some cases there isn't, right? It depends on the executive, depends on the team. Is there an immediate ROI? One size fits all. One size does not fit all. Let me be very, very clear, right? Soft skills don't impact the bottom line. Yes, they do. ROI is purely financial. No, it's not. Return on investment is growing people, right? Growth mindset has been one of those key phrases out there. Please tell me how you measure a growth mindset. I've done it, but it's hard. So when we're looking at the myths around the cost, right? So yes, there is an ROI, but sometimes it's not immediate. There are programs that you can teach people in large groups, but if you want to get to specifics, you've got to be specific. Soft skills impact the bottom line more than people realize. It is absolutely critical. I've saved tens of millions of dollars and generated tens of millions of dollars by the use of soft skills in my previous roles. So soft skills are absolutely critical in businesses. And the ROI, you cannot put money on the development of people. You can, but you can't. ROI is not purely financial. Sometimes, think of a plant. If you put a seedling in the ground, are you going to get an oak tree tomorrow? No, that takes hundreds of years. But when it comes out, it's majestic. Can you wait that long? Sometimes the answer is no. So what do you need to work on right now to get you the results you need? Be very specific, be very intentional, and drive that. But also, what is the long term that you're looking at? How are you developing your core team to take over the organization to get them to the number they need to get to? I'm going to use an example, and I heard of this case there recently, and it's the WD-40 organization. I was reading an article about, return on investment, and the market wanted returns on numbers and things like that. And they asked the CEO at the time, and they said, so all the work you're doing internally is not delivering the numbers you want that needs to be delivered. And his response was, those are the street numbers, not my numbers. Our business is being built for the long-term growth of the company. You measuring on a quarter is not going to be reflective of what we do. That company came out and is doing extremely well. They built the culture, they built the organization, they built the people intentionally internally to get them to the long-term goals. So again, lots of companies want it now and wanted it yesterday, and I understand that because of market pressures. But there is an argument for a longer-term growth to get you to sustainable growth. And again, I think that's where some companies miss.
100%, Andrew. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that is the thing. You coach culture. And when you look at that and looking at the market, both in the UK and South Africa, I really notice now, the mantra, the customer's always right, etc. And I see there's a huge shift now towards from CX to EX. It's this employee experience and how do you retain talent and brilliance. And if you're not coaching and creating an environment where there's growth for individuals, I can tell you the companies that aren't doing that, we'll notice that in years to come.
I would say months to come, not years to come, months to come.
Quite possibly.
Yep.
They're losing talent, So looking at that, are there specific sectors then or industries where these misconceptions are more prevalent than others?
No. I think is the simple answer. I think all sectors, all industries have this misconception. I think there's a slight difference with regards to cultures. What is the culture of the organization? Is the culture of the organization a growth culture? Is the culture of the organization a results-based culture? What is the culture of the business? And I think that will drive a misconception faster than anything else, right? I also want to play on another area, and this may be a little bit contentious, but when I'm looking at coaching, executive coaching, I think there's a prevalence or a misconception within genders, to be honest with you. So when I'm working with individuals and what I've seen over a period of time, especially engaging and having conversations, I believe that the female gender is actually more open to learn and discuss. They're more open to talk. They're more open to understanding what they need to do to get them from point A to point Z. Unfortunately, I think there's been a historical trend where men have got to know it all. They've got to know the answers. They've got to know what the problem is. They've got to know what the solution. And if they don't, they're weak. And I think that within the gender, females are more open to exploring and understanding and communicating and having input and seeing things from a bigger picture. Where I would say that the male generation or male gender is not. They've got to have the answers. And unfortunately, they don't. I am one of those. I don't have all the answers, right? You've got to be honest enough with yourself to understand you don't have the answers and be honest with yourself and humble enough to ask for help. Because if you don't ask, you don't get. No, I don't think there's a misconception. I think the difference is more in the culture and the genders.
Food for thought, definitely. So some would argue then that the benefits of executive coaching are too individualized to be generalized for ROI calculation. How do you counter this point of view?
Real easy. What is the loss or realized opportunity cost? Right. So if you're making poor decisions, are you losing money? Have you lost that opportunity? If you're making better decisions, have you realized that opportunity? So what's the opportunity cost? Number two, what's your burnout rate? What's the executive burnout rate in your organization? How many people are working 14, 16, 18 hours a day when they don't need to? What's the burnout rate of your organization? How many people have left because they're unfulfilled, unhappy, and just burnt out? What is the decision accuracy? So the accuracy of decisions being made. How many are you winning? How many are you losing? Right? And the speed of doing that. And then the employee and client retention. So what's your employee and client retention rates? Right? We all hear that, it takes 6 times the amount of effort to get a new client than it does to keep one. What is your retention rate? What's your employee retention rate? So when we're looking at these, I would say that the 4 key areas: what is your loss versus realization opportunity cost? What's your executive burnout rate? What's your decision accuracy and rate? And then what is your employee and your client retention rates?
I think those are all very valid points and things that we definitely work on. So how do companies ensure that the ROI calculation then for executive coaching are both comprehensive and representative of individual growth?
This goes back to looking at the numbers, right? So being very specific and the feedback on improvements, right? What is the improvement we're trying to make, right, in that specific time period? So making sure we're constantly getting that feedback so that we're realizing the improvements, right? So I'm making sure that those improvements become natural, right? It becomes muscle memory or brain memory, right? How many times we can't just say it once and, well, we've taught them, off we go, right? Business KPIs. What are the business KPIs, right? Defining those based upon the executive and the ROI of what you put in. Promotional rates, right? How are you promoting people? What is your promotion rate? If they've gone through the training, they've gone through the executive coaching, are you promoting those people through the organization? And I then go back to your reduced burnout rates. The cost of burnout is excessive. Just think of this. The cost of replacing an employee is at least 1x their annual salary. When you replace an executive, that number multiplies exponentially. It could be 10, 20, 30x their annual salary. Let's say they're on a program that's got to deliver $500 million of cost reduction. That executive gets burnt out and you don't realize that cost reduction. What's the cost to the business for that? If you've got an executive that's growing a business by X percentage per year, right? Let's say they're in the sales and they've got to grow the business 30% and you burn them out. That 30% is not realized. What's the impact of that on the business? Not just on the current sales, but what is the cost of the business with regards to, the overall value of the business? So when we're looking at the ROI, making sure we're getting, the feedback, the improvements. Are we getting those improvements in the business? How is that impacting the business KPIs? Are we seeing promotional rates internally? Because that's a great metric. And then are we reducing the burnout rates of our executives and leaders in the organization?
Yeah, great. That's really great, Andrea. And I think those are such valuable metrics to be able to measure, to look at from a CEO or an MD perspective when you're looking down at your team and those that cascade below your direct team. I'd say one of the other things that we've noticed a huge uptick in South Africa is sick days. The number of sick days. So it's always been often at a lower level. Suddenly there's that sick day creep into C-suite where people are, like you're saying, just burnt out. They don't feel supported. I think what coaching does at an executive level is it really creates a communication channel for your C-suite to really know what's going on in the business. And that enables you to make better decisions, doesn't it?
Well, let me expand upon that as well. So in executive positions, they're very, very lonely positions, right? Traditionally, people have said you've got to have the answers, right? You've got to get the results, right? You've been put in that position because you're an expert to get the results you need to get to. It's a very, very lonely position. So the ability to communicate or have conversations about the struggles that you have and having an unfiltered conversation is not usually available in the C-suite or executive ranks. People don't feel comfortable doing that. So having a coach that not is only driving and growing you, but has the ability for you to have open conversations and be very transparent with that individual about what's going on both internally and personally is a release point, and a release point that most people don't have. So it's very, very important from that perspective that executive coaches are there not only to listen and give guidance, but to be a safety valve, a release valve. And again, we don't want it to be a couch session, right? But having that ability to have a unfiltered, unregulated conversation in a safe space that allows people just to offload and then re-engage and build up is very, very important.
Yeah, invaluable. Wow, great conversation, Andrew. I know we both need to get to our corporate clients and go and coach our executives. So we've tackled everything from metrics used in different industries to the challenges of actually quantifying the softer skills of like leadership and emotional intelligence. It's clear that the ROI in executive coaching isn't just a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. There's a nuanced understanding that's essential here. Wouldn't you agree, Andrew?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So we've delved into these key performance indicators that can actually translate into financial gains or losses for a company. Things like leadership efficacy, team engagement levels, they're no joke. They can make or break the ROI of an organization. And let's not forget those myths. The idea that ROI is purely financial, or that one coaching model works for everyone or for every industry or for every company is far from the truth. So whether you're a decision maker in a corporation or just intrigued by how the corporate world functions, remember this. The value of executive coaching goes beyond just the immediate numbers on it. It's an investment in holistic growth, both for the individual and the organization. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. You know where to reach out to if you would like to look at executive coaching in your organization, and we can't wait to have you back for the next one. Thank you, Andrew, very much for a great
Thanks, Luke.
discussion.
Have a great week. Talk to you soon.